Okay, so on to my next guest. My next guest is a best-selling author who throughout his career has written 50 books which have sold over 80 million copies. They've been translated into 37 languages worldwide. His novels have been widely adapted for stage and screen, and he's the winner of multiple prizes, including the Carnegie Medal, as well as being awarded a knighthood for services to literature. 5 years ago, he was diagnosed with a form of Alzheimer's disease, and since then he has spoken openly of his support for assisted death. Would you welcome, please, Terry Pratchett. Come along with me, Thomas come along with me, Thomas yeah. Welcome back to Ireland.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Good to see you. You've had this phenomenal success as an author. But I understand that reading wasn't easy for you as a child.
It wasn't. And I was behind the class. And my mum was a kind of pushy mum.
Yeah.
And she actually said, I tell you what, if you read, I'll give you a penny for every page, actually, that you get right. That worked for about 3 stories.
Yes.
The next one was The Wind in the Willows, and I wanted to read that so much that Mum didn't have to pay me anymore. And after that I went down to the library and just got out every book that I possibly could.
And you just kept going then?
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
Can I ask you about the interest in fairies and elves and that side of your imagination? Where did that come from?
Because they always seem to be with us. We think about them, and especially in Ireland, for heaven's sake.
Yes.
You know, I made a big pilgrimage to Biddy Early's cottage last time I was here. Something kind of sticks in. But the other thing is, it's not really about the fairies and the elves. You can use them as metaphors. And,
yes.
And my city of Ankh-Morpork has got all kinds of different creatures in it, you know, including vampires and werewolves. But they're just citizens, you know. They do a daily job.
Yes. So you credit that back to the days of the Irish storytelling sort of situation.
Well, yes.
Folklore.
My mum used to say I took after my eye. He would have been my great-grandfather.
Okay.
He told her all his stories and stuff.
And here you are back in Ireland. You're a professor at Trinity as well,
yeah.
Of course. How are you enjoying that? You're wearing the T-shirt tonight, I see.
It's a great deal. They made me do it.
Did they?
You know? Oh, yes.
And how are you enjoying that experience?
You know, it's a lot of fun for a boy with no A-levels.
Yes.
But I left school because I knew I wanted to be a journalist, and I could write well.
Yes.
And so I phoned, I thought I got fed up with this, and I phoned up the local newspaper and said, when have you got a job for a trainee? And he said, right now.
Yeah.
And he said, when I went to see him, he said, I like the cut of your jib, young man. I don't think you can say that today without actually being sent to prison. But I got a good job, and it was great.
Yes.
Working in journalism it's a really good start for a writer.
It gave you a good grounding, did it, in writing?
Well, you see, you have to write every day, you have to work.
Sure.
And you do everything, the coroner's courts, and murders, suicides, you covered all these things, and you're still more or less an adolescent kid, and you have to learn all this stuff. You go out very, very fast.
Yeah, for sure. In 2007, Terry, you decided to go public with the fact that you had Alzheimer's, a form of Alzheimer's. Why did the decision to go public with it?
I didn't even think twice about it.
Did you not?
We came away from the hospital where the diagnosis took part, and
yes.
My PA said, who are we going to tell? And I said, everybody. And next thing you know, our driveway was full of journalists. We just couldn't get them away with shovels. Because it never occurred to me to hide it. I think the thing that I really had in mind, you remember, everyone remembers Richard Dimbleby, one
yes.
of the great broadcasters.
Sure.
When he died of cancer, his family told the world that he had cancer. And up to that time, people never talked about cancer.
Yes.
But after he had talked about it, they had talked about it, suddenly it was okay to talk about it. And I thought, well, if he did that, I'll try this. And so I just, threw myself into it.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about the form of Alzheimer's, you have?
Well, it's a curious thing called, it's known by its initials PCA.
Yes.
Some people call it the Rolls-Royce of Alzheimer's.
What does that mean?
Well, it starts in a different place, and so it takes a lot longer, as far as I can see, to go the full run. I mean, after all, I've written, I think, 8 best-selling novels with it.
Since you were diagnosed?
Yes.
That's extraordinary.
So, as you can see, it's going slow. Sooner or later, it will try and take me over.
Yeah.
But I've been going around the world and doing all kinds of stuff. In a broad way, you wouldn't notice unless I told you.
Precisely. So, can you explain to me, or to us at least, on a day-to-day basis, what are the sort of effects that you have now that you wouldn't have had pre-2007?
They're kind of the other thing that's a problem. I'm now 64. And I don't know whether the things that are happening to me are me being 64 on top of everything else.
Right.
Because my dad used to lose track of stuff. People say, everyone says, sometimes I go upstairs and I forgot what I've gone upstairs for.
Yes.
So, it's just the commonality of mankind. I dress myself in the mornings, there's not much that I can't do.
Sure.
But I can't drive a car because Alzheimer's affects your vision. PCA affects your perceptions.
Sure.
A little bit, and you just don't want to run over a little girl on a crossing because you can't see her there.
Sure.
That's the major thing, really.
Yes. What about book signings?
Well, this hand, I've used it many times.
Yes.
Putting the hand in freezing buckets of water to bring it back to life again and so forth. I do them occasionally now, but never mind about the Alzheimer's. It's busted up this hand. I used to do round-the-world tours and
Sure.
stuff like that, and signing tours will kill you faster than drinking women, although I'd like to try it.
Can you sign your name, Terry?
What it is now is like a chop, a Chinese word. If you know it's me, you'll get the squiggles.
Okay.
But sometimes Rob, my PA, would nip in afterwards and just write it down and say, yes, it really is him.
Okay, very good. And what about a keyboard? Are you able to use a keyboard?
I don't have to.
No.
I talk to the computer. I use a wonderful package.
Yes.
And I can actually dictate to the computer and even teach the computer the names of my characters and things like that. I recognise it to everybody, because it's much easier to talk. Writing is a storytelling, one way or the other.
Yes.
And it seems suitable to say it rather than go tappity, 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 tap on the keyboard. And I rather like doing it, and my output is pretty good as well. How
is your wife coping with the situation at the moment?
She's quite sanguine about the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, in a major way, nothing much has really changed. I'm a bit absent-minded.
Yes.
But lots of people in their 60s are absent-minded. So it's really rather minor.
She wants to take care of you as if in the event that it does deteriorate. But
it is undoubtedly that sooner or later
that's going to happen.
Deteriorate.
Okay.
Well, I know of nothing that will stop it. There's quite a few there's 2 medications now which do slow it down.
Yes.
But sooner or later you run out of brain.
And your wife, as I understand it, wants to keep you here and take care of you. You don't want to be that person.
You're very nearly right. I mean, we've had a long, happy marriage.
Sure.
And the decisions seem to be made by osmosis, without us having to talk about it. She would like very much to look after me. I'm aware that she's almost the same age as me, and if something goes wrong with her, that's going to be another problem. And I think ahead, as most people in this situation do. But at the moment, we don't have to think about it. We make certain contingencies,
yes.
but at the moment, I enjoy every single day.
Can I ask you about this? You're an advocate of assisted death, isn't that right?
Well, I don't actually think that everyone should have one, but I think it should be available for certain people who have an illness that cannot be countered in any way and which is nasty and crippling quite often and eventually will kill them. I see no reason why they shouldn't if they are compos mentis, which is quite important.
Very.
And I would also say, because I'm a well-married man, if their wife is also standing by them, wife or husband is
yes.
by them, so that the family themselves are of one mind, yes, I think that should be possible.
I watched the documentary you made, Choosing to Die. It's been nominated for a BAFTA. Congratulations on that one. But more importantly, you follow two people. One man, I think, he had motor neuron disease. Another man with MS. If we concentrate on the older man,
yes.
who went with his wife to Zurich to die.
Oh yes, yes.
And we saw him die on camera in this programme.
We never set out to do that. We quite thought. We got on very well with Peter Smedley and his wife. They were great. They were the best of British, as far as I could see. You know, the old kind.
Yeah.
It is an old kind of English gentleman. I think he was quite firm in his purpose, and I think his wife would support him because this was what he wanted.
Yes.
And I thought that we would, and we all expected, I think, that what we would do is go to the door of where it was going to happen, and then with camera stops everything. But when we arrived that last day, husband and wife opened the door to the room and said, "Come in, all of you."
Yeah.
I think both of them wanted to make a statement of sorts. And I think one of the statement was, it's a wretched thing that this man had to go across the world to find a place where he could find surcease. Why couldn't he have done it in London somewhere?
Can I make a kind of slightly personal observation of that that couple? I felt that they were very in love with
Indeed.
each other, and I felt that he was compos mentis, but his body wasn't what it should be, if you like, in the natural order of things.
That was why.
But I felt it was a terrible waste on the basis that they were talking to each other only minutes, but they were talking about chocolate and cups of tea. And then he was gone within 2 minutes of a drinking.
Yes. I was there talking to him.
I know. I felt there was more in them. There was more juice in the tank.
Well, it was, for him, the simple thing is this. Under our laws, under UK laws,
yeah.
If his wife helped him, she could be prosecuted.
Yes.
So he told us, and it was in the programme, he went so that he wouldn't be putting her in jeopardy.
And equally, Terry, you had the scenario where you watched him make that decision while he was still compos mentis, and you made the observation that you're in a similar predicament whereby your Alzheimer's will deteriorate to a point where you won't be able to make that decision. And do you now find yourself wondering, are you going to run out of time in which you can actually make this fatal decision?
I think that I sort of follow the way things are going. At the moment, I'm not getting very worried.
About
anything very much, but the writing's going well, and I don't seem to be. Every book I do seems to get better. The speech is a bit impaired, but even that's also probably an age thing. It does rather go very slowly, and I keep in touch with a specialist, and
yes.
He is quite amazed. But I throw myself into every day, and believe me, every day is absolutely full.
But back to the question, there may come the time, if you want to go this way, if you'll excuse the crudity of the language, but if you do want to go this way...
What I really said, that I would think of going if it was possible in England.
OK, but not if you had to travel.
The trouble is, you have to have 3 days in the country before... This is a rule, yes. And every day you have to talk to the doctors. And when I saw that happening with Peter, who I very much admire, but was a different person than me, and I thought, if I had to be in a foreign country for 3 days by myself thinking about this, I'd either end up as a poet or a madman. And I thought, can I go through that? I still think about that now. I mean, this isn't something... Somehow the writing of the books keeps me going.
Does the thought...
Sorry. At the moment, I know I've got time.
Yes.
So I'm making the most of it.
Does death frighten you, the thought of it?
Never. Never. I've written about him so many times.
About him?
Oh, yes. Death, in the first Discworld book, I think I introduced death, and he became one of the most popular characters because he's kind.
Okay.
As death is. He calls himself, the friend of the poor, all that Hogarthian type stuff.
He also scares a lot of people.
And
he takes people away when they don't want to be taken.
Well, if you read the books, when he meets you, he gives you a little chat, points you in the right direction,
Do you believe in the afterlife?
I have no religious belief, but I believe this world isn't the only one.
And can we expect more books from Terry Pratchett?
Terry Pratchett is expecting more books from Terry Pratchett.
Well, we're glad to hear it. Thanks for coming to see us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Terry Pratchett. Thank you. OK.